Scott, thank you for the time.
Yes. Yeah.
Very big event coming up tomorrow, and I know there were some hiccups along the way, but all things considered, top to bottom, couldn't ask for a much better card, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the tournament having its final fight of the quarterfinals, we're excited to see whoever wins move forward into the position of fighting Nemkov. The other side is already done, and so I'm excited about this tournament continuing. And we have let's say after today we'll have 4 amazing athletes, and we'll have a great semifinals, and then eventually have a finals sometime at the end of the year. Excited about that. I'm excited about the Juan Archuleta fight with Pettis. Sergio is no joke. He's going to bring it. You're talking about the history of, like, when you talk about martial arts training and wrestling, and you talk about the Pettis family training with Duke Rufus, and I saw all those pictures of those kids, training when they were like 5, 6 years old there, in like little karate uniforms with the ATA logo, and the guy, he must have been 3 or 4 years old in these pictures. This is a family that's grown up doing martial arts, and the pedigree of wrestling that Archuleta has, and eventually the mixed martial arts skills he's learned. He's at a very high level. So to me, this is going to be a war. I think this is going to be a really fast-paced war for the 5 rounds.
We'll go back to the main event in a second, but obviously people were stunned. They were heartbroken when we found out the news about Yoel Romero being out of the fight. And is there an update on him? Is there more? Because we were told there was like a medical situation. There's rumors circulating maybe it was something with his eye, but that's as far as it got.
Yeah, the thing is, because there's, HIPAA laws and medical, laws that protect, athletes or consumers from, different situations, we really don't have too much, knowledge of when he'll be able to fight again. I'm assuming it's probably 3-4 months. But the unfortunate thing is he's not going to be in the tournament. He'll be out of the tournament at that point because we couldn't wait. So we had either we're going to wait here 3-4 months and put Rumble on ice for 3-4 months and hold the tournament for 3-4 months, or we were just going to go and find an alternate to fight him, and that's what we did. And I think it was the right decision. But I promise you, hopefully, maybe after this tournament's over, or let's say if Rumble continues on to the finals, then he can fight Romero at another date, maybe towards the end of the year or beginning of next year. I personally want to see that fight, just for selfish purposes, of course. But that's one of the reasons why we signed Romero, was to fight Rumble. I said, this tournament just started growing, and the talent started growing in this company, and then we signed Rumble, and Romero was out there, and he was already offered to us maybe a month before. We passed on it, but we said, oh, now we got to do it because that's the fight. And we said we'll do that fight first in this tournament, and they agreed, and we signed it, and so that fight will happen, but it's just not going to happen in this tournament, which is unfortunate. But in this business, nothing surprises me anymore.
It is unfortunate, but at the same token, because I'm kind of a silver lining kind of a guy, losing Yoel was tough, but the main event gained a lot more traction because of it. I think people got to take a deeper look at the fight itself and realize, wow, this is a really good fight. Why were we not talking about this? Because it's flown so far under the radar. Do you agree with that sentiment? Yeah,
and you know what? If we would have just came out with the main event from the very beginning without the Rumble fight, yeah, it would have got a lot more, the heat would have got a lot more on those two guys. But, they were having to deal with the overshadowing of Rumble versus Romero, like you said. And that's the fight the fans want to see. And so there was, a lot of disappointment that that fight's not going to happen. So we're going to do it at a later date. But like you said, they're going to watch a great main event and a great card. I mean, we got MVP on this fight card. We have Quealy versus Pitbull. That's a fight that, SBG versus, the Pitbull brothers. There's some heat there. So over top to bottom, this is an amazing fight card. When you have fighters like Lorenz Larkin fighting on the undercard, or Henry Corrales fighting on the undercard, Logan Storley fighting on the undercard, then the top card is stacked. So this is another stacked card, and it's something that as a fight fan, I'm really going to enjoy just sitting here watching it and watch the whole thing unfold.
Rafion Stotts and Josh Hill's on the prelims. And
yeah,
that might be one of the best both competitively matched fights of the entire weekend.
Exactly. So that's my point, is that these guys are all killers and all studs, and it's our job is just to keep delivering fight card after fight card after fight card. We have a great relationship with Showtime, so people get to tune into Showtime and watch all the boxing that they have, all the MMA with Bellator now, and all the other entertainment shows. But I can promise you, I think we've done a really good job in the first 3 fights that we did on Showtime, and we're just going to keep continue on. We have, Cyborg next, and then we have Lima after that, and then I think we have Gegard coming up soon, and I mean, it's just going to be a stack card after stack card for Bellator on Showtime moving forward.
When can we expect Gegard?
I want to say probably late July or early August is when you see Gegard, but it's going to be in a short manner here.
John Salter?
I can't commit, but I think you're very warm there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Two and two together. Here we go.
Yeah.
Seeing Rumble Johnson back in an MMA setting 4 years after he announced his retirement, looks in tremendous shape. I mean, if you saw photos of him on social media, putting on all that muscle, but to see him step on that scale at 205 today, he looks tremendous. What have you seen from him since he arrived in Mohegan?
I'll tell you, he wanted to sign with us, and so he called me, and his manager called me and said, "Hey, would you guys be interested?" And we made the deal and had a little chat with him. But this is the first time we really interacted with him, live, face to face. And the one thing that I think a lot of great fighters just have this calmness about them, and that's what I feel with him. Super confident. Obviously, he's been training because he's in amazing shape, and even though he's been in a 4-year layoff, he still has a certain calmness about him and confidence about him that I think he's going to be a very dangerous fighter in this tournament. So when you have the skills that he has, the power's not going to go away. He's going to have knockout power, and he's in great shape. He seems very confident, seems very calm. I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in this tournament. So that's my impression, is that he walked the talk, and that you got to go do your part, right? Your part is to go train and get ready and basically be prepared to test yourself. And I think he's done everything that he can, to get to this point and test himself, because his physique speaks for itself.
I'm sure Jose Augusto is feeling pretty good as well. I mean, standing across from a guy like Anthony Johnson is not the easiest thing to do, especially with his pedigree and his resume and that power. But if you're going to fight Rumble, this is probably the best way to do it, right? Like, not a ton of pressure on you. You're coming in as a big underdog. People are expecting you to lose this fight. Takes a little bit of pressure off. So do you feel like he could make things really interesting for Rumble?
Yeah, because think about this. Rumble hasn't had time to train for him, right? He's probably still looking at the tapes last night trying to figure this guy out. So in that case, he does have an advantage, maybe compared to maybe Romero, whereas Rumble knows exactly what he's getting when he's dealing with Romero. Now that he's dealing with Jose, it's a completely different fight. Now he's trying to learn his style, and we'll see. I mean, look, in the Strikeforce tournament, there's a kid named Daniel Cormier that nobody knew, came out of nowhere and just swept the whole thing, took the whole thing home. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but in this business, man, you just never know.
You mentioned Patricky Pitbull and Peter Queally. There's a lot of heat between those two camps. Besides pride for the gym and just getting a win, is there more at stake in this fight?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the winner will obviously advance, towards getting that title shot, and we'll figure out after the fight with AJ and his brother what we're going to do, because he wants to defend it. He said to me, like, if my brother's in a line for a shot, maybe I'll step back. And so he'll have to figure that part out. The coaches tell me, hey, these brothers are crazy. They might just end up fighting each other. So don't be surprised if we call you one day saying Pitbull versus Pitbull. I seriously doubt that would happen, but you never know. But I think that depending on how this performance is, in this Quilly fight, his advancement will be something that we'll take a very close look at, as how does he look in this performance. And Quilly is no joke. This guy, he's going to bring it too. So if Pitbull or Quilly, whoever wins, will advance, I'm sure, in the rankings, and then advance in the position to fight for the belt at some point.
MVP is coming back against Derek Anderson. This is a fight that you tried to make a few times, and now we're finally here. The face-off was intense.
Yep.
Michael Venom Page was dressed to the nines in his new suit.
Yep.
What do you think of this matchup now that it's finally here and you got to see both these guys on the scale, and they had some fun up there?
Yeah, I think that, MVP, he always brings it. He always puts on a great show. I was telling everybody earlier, he's one of my favorite fighters in our company. And, he's going to come prepared. And, Anderson, like I said, he's a guy that we tried to put this fight together 3 times, I think. And it was injury or something always seemed to happen. So we're finally here. And this will be a test for MVP too, because Derek's no joke. And I think he's been studying him and studying his style, like the Christ style of fighting. That's going to be something I think that I don't think it's going to give Derek too hard of a time. I think that it's going to be. I think it's going to come down to, at the end of the day, who gets there first. I really think that's going to be the key of to this fight.
I'm sure you've seen the comments, you've heard about it, but Michael Page was pretty open during his media day and through some of his interviews that he wasn't very happy with his status with the company at the moment. And I know you just spoke to another journalist and you were just asked this question. In a weird way, in your position, you never want to hear your fighters talk like that, but in this case, are you kind of happy that he did talk like that? Because now you know that you had a reason to call him and maybe you could work this thing out.
Yeah, I mean, it's already worked out. And, listen, there's a lot of times where fighters are not happy about something, and sometimes the promoter's not happy about something, and then, we usually go through the management of these athletes and work things out. In this case, it seemed like, there's still a disconnect, and so I asked my guys, hey, get an MVP on the phone, let's have a conversation with him. And this is, like I was telling the other journalists, like, look, Aaron Rodgers isn't happy with Green Bay right now, right? It's like when you're an actor and there's the producer, the production company, a lot of times actors aren't happy with the production company. It's just it's a law of I guess, of this business, is that talent and production or producers are going to have battles sometimes, because that's just how it is. And so whether it's about more money or it's about, I want to fight this guy, or I want to fight more often, or why is this way, why is that? That's just how the business is, right? And it's our job to take care of that and have a good understanding with these athletes. And I think that's something that we're very good at. And we pride ourselves in being the fighters league, like fighters first league. And so I'm glad I had a chance to talk to MVP. And I wish that we could go and have a meal and sit down and have a real conversation, but we had to do it over the phone, and that's just how it is right now. But I know that when I get to London in the near future, or if MVP sticks around America, we'll get together and we'll continue just having good dialogue and good understanding. Because the things he's complaining about, some of them I understood, and some of them, I think he had to understand our part too. Our position is not just about what the fighter wants. It can't just be. It has to be an equal footing and equal understanding. So I think that we're on good ground now.
Is there like one specific thing that was kind of easy to work out?
Yeah, but it's like one thing I told him. I said, look, MVP, I'm not gonna take our laundry to the media, and nor should you. If you have a gripe, you have my number. You should call me directly, and let's have a conversation. And that's really, I think, how business should be done. And so, sometimes the media tries to extract, and then they call me and try to get me to comment and extract, and then it just escalates things when really it was a very small thing to begin with. So I just said, if you have an issue, call me, and we'll fix it.
A couple other things. I was talking to Josh Thompson the other day about this card and just about the Bellator roster in general, and he said that at this point, looking at the roster from top to bottom, he thinks it's better than the old Strikeforce roster.
Yeah.
I know it's kind of weird to look at where some of these fighters are now. You mentioned Daniel Cormier and others, but does he have a point? Like, do you feel like looking at the future of this company and the roster you have that we could get up to that level?
Yeah, what he's saying is right, and here's what I mean by that is that, in Strikeforce we had maybe one or two good fighters in every weight class, right? Here, the depth, we have a lot more depth of talent than in Strikeforce. And Strikeforce was a small company. We only had maybe 80 fighters or 100 fighters under contract. Here we probably have 300 fighters under contract. So it's a much different animal. We do a lot more fights here, big fights here, than we did in Strikeforce. I think at the height of Strikeforce, we were doing 6 big fights and 6 small fights, Challenger Series. And Challenger Series is something that I take a lot of pride in, because you're able to star identify and talent identify and then star build from there. And really that's, I think, something we're really good at. So when you talk about challengers, it was Misha, right? Sarah Kaufman, Ronda Rousey, Daniel Cormier, T. Wood, Luke Rockhold. If the list goes on and on and on. Like, if you think about the amount of talent that we built from ground zero up to, the point where they're able to compete with anybody in the world. And they've proven that, because how many Strikeforce fighters became world champions at the UFC? I mean, and so to me, I think we're very good and that's what we're doing here. We're going after certain fighters that we let's say we gamble on and pick and choose, and assign them and try to cultivate them, simmer them, and build them until they're ready to go fight anybody. And so I think what Josh is talking about is the depth of the roster is much deeper here than it was in Strikeforce. And Strikeforce had amazing talent, obviously, but only a couple fighters in each weight class. It was a difference, I think, in looking at this overall, roster.
Two last things. You made some headlines a couple weeks ago after one of the cards, and you were talking about Ryan Bader and the heavyweight title. Obviously, I talked to him about it. He's fine with it, but there's talks about maybe an interim heavyweight title fight. We're expecting that announcement, relatively soon. Do we have an update on when we can hear that announcement?
Yes, maybe tomorrow night. So we're shooting for it. We're trying to get all the contracts done right now, but we will have an interim title fight sometime in June. Between I don't want to say between, but for the interim heavyweight championship belt.
Ryan Bader's one request is that Timothy Johnson is one of the competitors.
He's definitely one of the competitors.
Okay.
Yeah. And he deserves it. He beat Czech Congo in Paris in October, so he's right in line there. So he definitely will be one of the athletes in that interim belt.
TBD, or are you gonna?
Yeah, TBD. You have to tune. You'll have to tune in to Showtime tomorrow to get the announcement.
I was like, I got 50%. And then last thing, I know you just spoke about this as well, but Diego Sanchez, that whole situation has just been wild. It's been less about Diego and more about his coach, and it's just kind of a crazy thing. And I don't know how familiar you are with the story, but at this point, just to keep it simple, are you open to having a conversation with Diego and maybe getting him over here?
I'd say I think I kind of like the roster, how we have, where we're at right now. Having a conversation doesn't hurt, but I don't know the whole story. I don't know. Somebody told me about the coach, and there's drama. Whatever. I'm not sure, but if I guess I'd have to do some more research first and then figure that out. But my guys might already be talking to them. I just don't know.
Fair enough, Scott. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Very excited for this card. It's a good one.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great card.